All right, guys, episode 4 of the Creative Acquisitions podcast. In today's episode, it's going to be a little bit of a shorter episode, but we're going to talk in detail about one of the projects I'm working on that is a ground-up construction project in Hocking Hills, Ohio. And the reason that I want to talk to you guys a little bit about this today is there is a lot of content, tons of content out there about buying and holding properties, short-term rentals, long-term rentals, mid-term rentals, multifamily, commercial, all this stuff. But there are very few videos that talk about doing the ground up construction project. And so what I'm going to try to do is document for you the steps that we've done so far, the steps that we're going to do in the future, and then how it's all going to come together. In order to get to a good spot in this story here, we kind of got to go backwards and talk about how we got the land. So in Hocking Hills, Ohio, it's a state park. Around there is an area called Bremen, Ohio. And in Bremen, there is basically a theme park, $30, $40, $50 million theme park that's going in the next 6 months. And so the appreciation in this market is absolutely tremendous. And in general, the cost of land is extremely cheap, okay? So for example, an acre of land in Logan or Hocking Hills area is anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 per acre. In most other areas, whether you're in Pennsylvania, New York, other places in Ohio, somewhere in and around the same area is going to cost you anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000, maybe even $200,000 an acre. You get into stuff like New York City, that's going to be way crazier. Here's what we did. We bought 50 acres of land. It was 2 different parcels with 2 different homes on it that we bought with seller financing. So one we bought for $1.7 million. It's a cabin that's, I don't know, it's probably 3-4 years old. It was built ground up. They built it for $800, sold it to us for $1.7. It got sold twice. So the guy who owned the land built the structure for $800, sold it to someone else for $1.3, who sold it to us for $1.7. We bought it with seller financing terms, 5-year balloon, 5% interest, $200,000 down. Great purchase, $1.7 million property, good depreciation, new asset, new roof, cash flow's good. It is seasonal, no doubt there's some seasonality to the property, but we bought that property there. The same piece of land, the shared piece of land, two different plots though, there's another property on there that is a older home built by the same gentleman, really modified by him. It's more of a cottage style property. And on that particular property, the house is a little bit bigger, but it's older, and we bought it for $1.5 million. Now the old property came with about 40 acres of land. The new property came with about 10 acres of land for a total of 50 acres. So what I got to thinking was, well, we have all this acreage that we've technically paid for, right? We put $200,000 down in each home, paid 1.5 for one, 1.7 for the other. So that's a total of 3.2, if my math is correct, and $400,000 down. So the equity position's like, under 15%, something like that. Now, in order to optimize the highest and best use of the land, we thought to ourselves, well, we have the land. There's good short-term rental demand here. Why don't we go build homes? And so what I did is I jumped over to AirDNA originally, and in AirDNA, it basically shows you all the different properties in a zip code. So I clicked on it and said, okay, what are the best performing properties? Turns out in Hocking Hills, there's a lot of supply and a lot of demand for 2-bed, 3-bed, and 4-bed properties, mostly for people going 2s and 4s, right? So 2-bedroom property for 4 people, $200 to $300 a night, works out. Turns out the top 10 properties in Logan, Hocking Hills, that kind of area, Bethel, they're all in the same area there. The best homes are doing between $400,000 and $500,000 a year in gross revenue and have 10 bedrooms. Every single one of them has 10 bedrooms, plus a pool, plus a hot tub, plus a sauna, plus other amenities, game room, limited garage space, a little bit of land, covered kind of cabana area, cooking area. It has all these specific specs. So what we said is this: hey, can we build a property that is going to generate $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year, depending on how we build it? Can it be 10 bedrooms? Can we build it ground up construction using our land and use a local bank, Vinton County Bank? So we went through the application process first with the city to say, okay, can we entitle and build on this? Turns out there are no rules for this area. There's no permitting. There's no real inspection process for any of this, which just blew my mind. But this is a real process in the short-term rental space. So we basically went to the city, said, what do we need to do? They have a septic inspection that they do, and they have a couple other small micro inspections, but nothing for like framing or roofing or plumbing or electric or anything like that, except for the tie-ins at the actual source, right? Waste tie-in, electrical tie-in, things like that. So we basically said, okay, well, what's the process to submit plans? And they said, well, go get plans drawn and send it to us. So we spent $12,000, went and got plans drawn by an individual who has a architectural firm. And so these drawings got done. We had a, side view, we have top view, right? Bird's eye view. We restructured it all with one of our good friends over at Restoration North. And basically what we did is we took all the crap out of the house, okay? All the excess walls, excess rooms, all this crap. And we basically set up the house in such a way that it flows really well. The garage, game room, right? We're not optimizing that for a garage because we don't want to have a garage. Driveway, double wide, but long because we know there's going to be a bunch of people in that property. We set everything on the first floor for most of the adults, second floor for most of the kids, and then have a combination of the two so that people who want to have their kids close to them can. Made all the doors, pocket doors, things like this. We basically did this whole drawing, right? And this drawing process took about 4 or 5 weeks to get it right. Then we started putting together a budget. Turns out that the exit price of this property, I think it's like 4,500 square feet. The exit price is about $1.8 million, but the build price is somewhere around $1.3 million. And so the interesting thing is that we can build this house. We have to put down $250,000 or so. We build this house with $250,000 down, finance the rest, let's say another $1 million from the bank. So we're in for 1.25, 1.35, somewhere in that range. Pull out some general contractor fees. Refinance the house at 75% loan to value at $1.8 million. We get all the profit out up front, cash out refi. We get our down payment back out, and we own the house with $0. Now, we'll only cash flow about $1,000 a month on a $300,000 a year, income property, but our CapEx should come down over time, and our maintenance should come down because the property's brand new and is not going to have a bunch of problems. And so the interesting thing that we have focused on is how do we build a house that's going to stand out from everybody else? So here's where we're stuck right now in this process. Financing. We have the bank. They already have the entitlement to the land. We bought the land seller finance. We bought the homes in the land seller finance with a wraparound mortgage, meaning the mortgage stayed in place. And so our next goal is to figure out how can we develop this land in such a way that we don't need to have to worry over and over and over again. We don't have to worry about having to upkeep the old properties. If we can build 1, 2, 3, 4 homes a year, that means that we have a constant source of new income because we can sell a house, right? We build it for 1.25 to 1.35. We sell it for 1.8, walk away with $400,000 in profit, or we refinance, get our cash back out and keep the asset, which we can get tax benefits with, cash flow, appreciation, all the other benefits that exist on the property. Now, for not everybody wants the same thing out of every property, so you just have to keep in mind that your goal is going to be a little bit different. But what we decided to do is we have this 50-ish acres. We have 2 homes on it. We can build probably 10 homes if we really wanted to. 5 is probably a better target. And the goal over the next 2 years is to build those 5 homes and do a really good job so that we can have proof of concept for other people who want to build those types of homes in the future. Now, Hocking Hills is going to continue to go up in value. That Bremen theme park is going in. That's going to drive value. There's year-round, visitors. There is seasonality, of course. January and February get smoked, but there's some really, really good numbers June, July, August. And so you just have to ask yourself when you are getting into short-term rentals, you don't have to do it the way everyone else does it. You don't have to do BRRRRs or BRRRR keys or flips or just straight buy and hold on market. There's a lot of different ways that you can make money within the short-term rental space. And so the focus is to do this ground up construction for some active income, because we all know that short-term rentals or any type of real estate investment is not really generating you active earned income. Anyone who's any good in real estate is going to tell you that they earn an income, a wage somewhere, whether it's W-2, 1099, owning a business, selling something, stocks, bonds. They have another source of income outside of their property. And so our goal is development might become part of an active income source in addition to maybe co-hosting properties or other consulting services or wholesaling or becoming an agent or whatever those other parameters are. There's a really, really, really clean path to getting there. And from my experience, the best thing to be successful at is to have a couple different things that can keep you afloat. That way, when one of those things is not going the way that you'd like to, you're still okay. If you only have one source, that's going to be incredibly difficult. And I know if you're watching this video, you're probably not that far along the pathway, but just keep in mind that going from active earned income into real estate, there's a steep drop there where you're just converting a bunch of cash, like $100,000 down payment, to maybe $1,000 a month in cash flow if you do a really good job. Like, that drop is huge. And so a lot of people think, oh, this is not a great return. I need so much money. Yes, you do. You need a ton of money if you're going to buy and hold real estate. Insane amount of money. If you're going to do value add, like flips, Berkeys, wholesale, things like that, to earn active income, then you can kind of get that going over and over and over. And that's going to make things significantly better. Now, one thing I will tell you is that anytime you have a project that involves some type of regulatory inspections, permits, cities, things like that, the hardest part, at least in my experience, is dealing with those people. So when you do a buy and hold, you really deal with guests, right? Guests come through the property. People are upset once in a while. You deal with them. When you're building something, you have permits, inspections, drawings. You have all these third-party contractors or third-party services that you have to interface with. And so you got to ask yourself, is that the type of business I want to be in? If that is the type of business you want to be in, that's great, but that's not for everybody. So anyways, back to the Hocking Hills project. We're going to build for, 1.2 to 1.3 million. We're going to cash out refi. We'll do it a couple times. Vinton County Bank is going to be working on this loan for us. And the one thing that I have learned so far that I would really caution people on is don't buy more than 5 short-term rentals in different markets all at once. So what we did when we first started, we had some stuff in Hocking Hills, some stuff in Denver, Colorado, some stuff in Charlotte, North Carolina, 5 or 6 markets in Florida, and we started having stuff spread out all over the place. And the problem is you got different time zones, different teams, and different all this. If you can, please try to centralize your work. My focus over the next 5 years is likely going to be Hocking Hills because it has a low cost of building, a low cost of land, and a high upside. And because of that, I feel really good about our ability to build and exit, okay? Now, not every deal is going to have the same exit strategy. So you just have to keep in mind as you go down the pathway, right? As you go down this pathway, you have to have more than one exit. You can't just say, I'm just a buy and hold person, and you can't build a house just to keep it. Sometimes you got to build a house to sell it. Sometimes you build it to keep it. And you have to have this split opportunity when you do these projects because you don't know what's going to come up. Interest rates change, loan to value changes, the project's more expensive, less expensive, takes too long, too short, don't have enough partners have different goals, whatever it is, you're going to have all these different challenges that you come up with, and that's going to be very difficult for you to overcome. So before you build a short-term rental, I would buy 1 to 5 of them, keep them in one area, learn how to run them for 6 to 12 months. They are actually very challenging to run. Once you figure out how to run the property, then I think you're in a position where you should be able to work on a small development. Now, before you decide, please, before you decide where you're building and what you're building, do the research. Price Labs and AirDNA, those 2 tools. Price Labs is going to give you real-time data on average daily rate, occupancy, total cash collected, total days available on exact properties. AirDNA is going to give you 12-month historical data with pictures and multiple platforms of what they generated as a whole, ADR, occupancy, all that stuff. In our case, when we looked at the data, there is lots of supply at the 2, 3, and 4 bedroom. There is not a lot of supply at the 10 bedroom. If you want to be really good, whether you're buying an asset or you're building an asset, you need to look at that curve and ask yourself, what are people trying to compete with? If everyone's competing on 2 and 3 and 4 beds, don't compete with that because you're going to have insane design, spend way too much money up front. Your cash on cash return is going to suck. You need to go to the other end of the spectrum. When I bought a bunch of homes in Colorado and I bought a bunch of homes in Florida, we bought a lot of 3s and 4s, 3 beds and 4 beds. And the problem is that those properties, there's a shitload of those properties. And so it's very challenging for you to make those stand out. Good design, good wallpaper, good furniture, good amenities, good this, that, good management. It doesn't matter because the asset class is nothing special. You need to get into an asset class that allows you to stand out amongst other people. The best way to do that is to optimize for heads and beds, okay? When we develop for Hocking Hills, we've optimized for sleeping 30 people, 10 bedrooms, plus 4 bonus rooms, sleeping 30 people. That would take between the first property we already have, the second property, and this property is well over 100 people can stay all together in one area for a wedding, an event, or whatever. There's nobody else in that marketplace that can sleep that many people. And so therefore, we have crazy good numbers there. You have to think outside the box. It's going to take you longer. It's going to take you more money down. There's going to be a bunch of different things you have to deal with. But developing a project is going to be something that's very useful to you long term. The economics of the project generally are you profit 20 to 25% of whatever the value is of the asset. So if the asset is $1 million asset, you're going to build it for $750 and make $250. You have to back out some fees, closing cost, agent fees, things like that. Absolutely. But that's the math on it. So when we build it for 1.35 and we exit it for 1.8, we're going to have our GC cost pulled out, $100,000 there, plus all the return of capital, plus all the money back out because we've refinanced on a BRRRR strategy, right? It's not really a BRRRR, it's a develop and refi, right? Ground up construction. The other thing to keep in mind, land is a long play. Land investing can be very effective because you can flip land. You can buy land for $5,000, sell it for $10,000. If you do that for 30 acres, pretty good profit, right? 30 acres at 5,000 is 150. If it goes to 10, it's 300. You make $150,000 spread. That's a real, and you can subdivide that too. That's a real way to invest in real estate as well. But again, ground up construction is the hardest. And just to go backwards to talk about the options that you have within the real estate space, here are the 4 cascading options. First thing, wholesaling real estate. You buy contracts or put people's deals under contract, resell them for a profit. You're under contract at $500, you resell at $525. That's wholesaling. You make a $25,000 thing. It's all active income. You don't get any real benefit. Fix and flip, very similar. Active income. You buy an asset at 70% of its value. You rehab it. You sell it at 100% of its value. Typically make anywhere from $25,000 to $50,000. The graduation above that is to go into buy and hold real estate, right? Put a bunch of money down, tie up a bunch of cash, get a loan, seller finance, sub 2, whatever, buy and hold the asset. Then the last thing is development. It's the most difficult, highest barrier to entry, most challenging thing that you need to do. But if you can get to the development phase and you can get good at it and you can get your friends together and come up with a process for this, you will be incredibly successful because the barrier to entry is so high for so many people and it seems daunting and stressful. So work your way through that. Wholesale a deal first, probably, maybe try a fix or flip or 2, a buy and hold or 2, and then you can work your way up. I still really recommend you get somewhere between 1 and 5 properties that you've ran for about a year, 6 months to a year as a short-term rental before you try to develop, because 50% of the difficulty in developing short-term rentals is what should you build. And it's not builder grade stuff. It's not just like, let's do a 3-2 or a 5-4 or a 5-5 or whatever. Like that doesn't matter. What matters is the unique structuring and drawings that you're doing to make this a good quality short-term rental, but also keeping in mind there's an exit strategy that somebody who's a homeowner might buy this at some point. So you can't make it super stupid. You can't delete the garage completely, but what you can do is build a garage, frame in inside the garage door, make that a game room, and if you ever sell it to a homestead buyer, you can take out that wall and now you got a true pull-in garage, which for the right person makes sense. So again, multiple exit strategies. Last thing I'll leave you guys with, no matter what strategy you do, wholesale, buy and hold, fix and flip, development, you have to be able to calculate your numbers. My biggest mistake in buying short-term rentals has been miscalculating older properties on capital expenses. You should be budgeting 10% today, close to 10% of revenue on capital expenses. Previously, we've done about 5%, and it's never enough in the first 3 or 4 years if you don't have a new property. So let's say the property does $100,000 a year. You really need to budget on an older property $10,000 in CapEx when you do your penciling in your first 1 or 2 years. And the reason that is you're going to want to improve stuff, make those capital improvements, that deferred maintenance. You're going to want to make those improvements now, and then you might not have anything in year 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So remember, CapEx, 10% of top line. If you're building stuff, your CapEx can come way down because everything's new roof, no windows, no this and that. Nothing's going to have an issue. You might have some small maintenance, but it'll be way more efficient, okay? The very, very last thing I'll leave you with, if you have questions about this process, this is new to me, right? The development process. But if you have questions on the buy and hold or about some flips or about some wholesaling, I'm happy to answer those questions as well in the comments. But keep in mind, I'm trying to document this journey for you as I go through the process so you can see some of the mistakes I've made and try to avoid those so you can have a better real estate experience. As always, thank you so much for watching and have a great day.